Find a steady, easy seat. Turn your gaze inward. Tune into your breath. And take a moment to simply check in with yourself. Notice how you're feeling emotionally. Notice what you're focusing on mentally. Notice your energy level, high, medium, or low. Keep it simple. Is it high, medium, or low? And then notice the physical sensations in your body. Not just on the surface, but inside. The muscles, the tissues, the joints, the organs. And then placing your left hand on your heart and your right hand over your left, set your intention for your practice today. I'm thinking so much of the teachers and the new school year beginning, all the way up from daycare to postgraduate. So for me, lately, I'm dedicating my practice to the teachers. But allow your intention to come from your heart and meet the needs of the present moment. And then come to lie down on your back with your knees bent. And it's not constructive rest. So keep the inner thighs apart and keep the hips and the knees and the ankles and the feet in line with each other for the beginning here. And engage with your ocean breath, making that contraction at the base of the throat to draw the breath in. And then maintain that contraction for the exhalation so that you release the breath out with control. And bring your awareness to your shoulder blades and feel if you can find a slight retraction on the inhalation. It's a micro movement, nothing big, but the shoulder blades slightly move towards each other. And then on the exhalation, they slightly move away from each other. And then add in that on that inhalation, you tilt the tailbone towards the mat. And again, you might feel the shoulder blades slide in a little more towards the spine. And then on your exhalation, lower back into the mat, shoulder blades slide apart a little. Lift the hips up. Don't come into a bridge here. We're keeping the feet parallel and just looking for a long line of energy from the shoulder blades up through the hip flexors into the knees. So rather than a back bend here, we're looking for more of just a little hip opener, some gluteal engagement, and the inner thighs activating. Inhale, release back down, just letting the tailbone And the buttocks touch the mat. Keep a back bend here. And then on the exhale, draw the navel to the spine, lengthen the tailbone, and float the hips up. Again, not coming into the back bend here, just a long straight line. And one more, inhale. This is the back bend as you lower the pelvis down to the mat. And exhale, press into the four corners of the feet and find that line of energy as you lift up, not into a back bend, but just keeping straight here as much as you can. And then inhale, lower down. And now walk your feet out a little wider. And again, not constructive rest, so keep the thighs apart. And inhale. Maybe find a little more space for the arms if you want to bring them out into a giant T, or just move them out a little bit for a little more support. And on the exhale, drop both knees over to the right and really press into the inner edge of the left foot, outer edge of the right foot. Inhale, come back through center, and exhale, other side, pressing into the outer edge of the left foot, inner edge of the right foot. And inhale through center, exhale to the right, inhale through center, and exhale to the left. Inhale through center, and this time when you exhale to the right, pause here for a moment, really press into that inner edge of the left foot, outer edge of the right foot, and then also really engage your left glute. Draw it away from you and move it to the right. You should feel a nice opening in your inner left thigh and maybe even more in that left hip flexor. And then inhale back through center and exhale, knees over to the left, engaging the inner edge of the right foot, outer edge of the left foot. But mostly here, work to engage that right glute. And feel how it is connected with the inner edge of the right foot. Open that right hip flexor. Move that right glute to the left and down and away from you. So we did the 6 movements of the spine. Inhale back through center, flexing and extending the spine, twisting right and left. And then as we held that twist, really working with the lateral movement of the spine, really finding that space on both the right and the left side of the body. Now bring the feet back parallel with the knees and the hips. And once again, you'll want to have the arms out a little bit to make space for what's going to happen. If you can, you're going to lift your hips up, inhaling the pelvis up off the mat, glutes engaged, and exhale to the outer edge of the right foot, inner edge of the left foot, keeping the hips lifted. Inhale through center, and exhale to the left, inner edge of the right foot, outer edge of the left foot, keeping the hips lifted. If you can't keep the hips lifted, that's fine. Just come back to that first movement that we made, sorry, not the first movement, the second movement that we made, and think maybe about just trying to lift the hips if you can. And you want the feet a little wider for that probably, but if you can stay with me, a little more narrow stance, inhaling through center and exhaling to each side with your hips lifted. You should feel a lot of core engagement here, especially through the side body as you go side to side, as well as that gluteal engagement. And one more, each side, either hips down or up, doesn't matter. You're just doing what you can do, honoring what's available as well as what is not. And inhale back to center, and exhale, lower down. And then draw your knees in, cross your ankles, hold on to the tops of your feet if you can. If this is not available, you'll simply roll over and find your way to tabletop. But if you'd like to find your way to tabletop with me, please do so. Exhale, pull the knees in, and inhale, come up a little. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale till you get the momentum, and then roll right over, and let's all meet in tabletop position. Doesn't matter how you got here, just find your way to be here. Now, and on an inhale, draw the shoulder blades in towards the spine. And on an exhale, move them away from the spine. And lift the heart up towards the upper back. And feel how the arms assist you here. Move towards the inner arm as you move the shoulder blades in. Move towards the outer arm as you move the shoulder blades out. But it's an isometric movement. You're not moving the hands at all. Moving the arms in, shoulder blades in, move the arms out, shoulder blades out. Keep drawing the navel towards the spine on both actions, inhaling and exhaling. And then find that place that's in between the retracting shoulder blades and the protracting shoulder blades. And feel an evenness between your inner arm and your outer arm. Here, good. And then just start to make some circles of the shoulders just around the wrists. So of course the hips are going to have to come with a bit, but let it be more about circling the shoulders around the wrists and then change direction. Notice that most likely the second direction was a little harder. There's a little more physical sensation. That's almost always the case. And that's because the brain knows, without you even having to think about it, which way is easier, which is a really great activity of the brain. That's why you're supposed to always go with your first instinct. It's the easiest way to go, except for in certain situations. But we'll save that for another time. And then find your pelvis and begin to circle that around your knees. So again, notice the shoulders are still moving here, but your awareness is more around the hips. And see if you might bring a little cat and cow here as well. So you're inhaling, tailbone up to the sky, over to the left or the right, it doesn't matter. You're going to change direction in a minute. But then on that exhale, tailbone under and over to the other side, and then inhale up. Move your hips and change direction. Inhaling as the tailbone goes up and exhaling as the tailbone curls under. And again, there is a little movement in the upper back, in the chest and the shoulders, but let it really be about your hips for a moment. And then coming back to stillness again. Now find that place that's in between. And then begin to make big circles with your whole body. Front and back. So this isn't a rib cage action here. We'll save that for another time. This is just to get the hips and the shoulders really warmed up. And then other direction. And then tabletop. And allow your hips to sink back towards your heels and let the arms reach out overhead. Tent the fingers. That was a lot on the wrists there, so let them get some space and open up and not have any pressure on the hips for a moment. Breathing in and breathing out. And just finding the space in the lower back, both in terms of the wideness of the sacrum, but also the length of the tailbone. Feel a nice engagement through the upper arm as you reach into your tented fingers, and let the prefrontal cortex just completely relax. And inhale, rise back up. Find that tabletop position. And come into a little cobra here. So hug the hips in, let the tailbone be long, but pull the belly and the hips and the heart forward and up any amount. Gaze can rise as well. And exhale back into a little more of a puppy than a child's pose. And inhale, come forward. Hug the elbows in and make sure there is a little bend in the elbows, that you're not having straight arms here. It's actually a little harder. And draw the shoulder blades together. And exhale, spread the shoulder blades apart and move back. And one more. Inhale, hug those shoulder blades in, hug the elbows in, tailbone moves forward, hips move forward, heart rises, gaze rises. And exhale, find that puppy position again, just for a moment. And then come a little more forward with the hips, so your hips are a little bit more in line with the knees, and walk the hands a little more forward. And come into a puppy that has the hips moving more towards the knees rather than the heels. And then from here, begin to really round the spine. So this is why we want the hips a little behind the knees to begin with, because as you round the spine, curl the tailbone under, lift the navel up, drop the head down, your hips now will come a little forward and really be in line with the knees. Round the spine, round the spine, round the spine. Good. And then inhale, lift up. Again, trying to keep the hips in line with the knees. Walk the hands any amount forward that is available, and allow the chin and maybe even the chest to come down to the mat. And of course, the shoulder blades are definitely moving in towards the spine now. And breathe here. Try to keep the navel still engaged. Don't just let it go. Opening up the armpits. And then inhale, lift up just a little bit. Move the hands back just slightly. And then see if you can curl the tailbone under, lift the navel to the spine, but let the back of the neck be long, the throat be open, and let the armpits move towards the mat. So now your lower body is in more of that puppy pose, but the upper body is moving more into the heart opener. It's a little bit in between what we did in both actions, and you should feel a little more neutral through the shoulder blades here. And then inhale, walk the hands back up so that once again the shoulders are stocking over the wrists and the hips are stocking over the knees. And let's do just a little bit more work with a wrist here. So turn your right fingers towards you and your right wrist away from you. Keep the left hand right where it was. And very slowly, to whatever degree you're able to, peel the right palm up. You can bend the right elbow here. And then just as slowly, peel it back down. Plant it back down. Okay, and 2 more times. Inhale, you should feel a lot of pressing into the fingers and to the ball of the hand, I guess it would be, or the first knuckle there, those little mounds right there at the top of the palm, bottom of the fingers. And then slowly press that back down, and 1 more. And then spin back around, right fingers forward, and turn the left fingers out to the left and as far back towards you as you comfortably can. And again, peeling the palm up. Oops, heard a little knuckle crack there. And down, and 2 more times. And just feel how you're really moving into the fingers there and into those mounds at the top of the palm. And you can bend the elbow, make it feel good, move slow, and then let that go. Feel how much better it feels after you do that. I just find that so wonderfully amazing. And okay, and then just lift up, keeping the fingers forward into the tented fingers, and then slowly lower back down. We'll do that a couple of more times. So you can, if that isn't really doing much for you, you can try coming into more of a half plank, and it's a lot harder. You can try it in full plank too if you want to. And then lower back down, and 1 more. Lifting up onto the fingertips, and then lowering back down. Good. And then lifting back and up into downward facing dog. And see if you can bring that action into your down dog. So really lift up out of the fingers gripping into the mat. Press into that rim around the palm. And lift up out of the wrists into the inner arms. And move the shoulder blades in towards the spine. So the upper back is coming into that little bit of a back bend, but the lower body, tuck the ribs in, draw the navel to the spine, and really lengthen and maybe even curl the tailbone under a little bit. Feel free to have as bent of knees as you would like here, but keep that all in play. That we have a little back bend in the upper back and a little more flexion in the lower back and in the belly and the pelvis. And then as you're ready, walk your feet up towards your hands or hands towards your feet. And walk your feet out as far as you need to comfortably come into Malasana. So the toes can point a little bit outwards here, but just make sure that your knees are aiming right over your toes. And if you need to be in more of a squat like this, that's fine. And press your arms into your thighs. And then release that a little and press your thighs into your arms. So bring the knees a little bit more together and just go back and forth like that a couple of times. Good. And then hands out in front of you. Exhale, lift up. You can turn the toes in a little bit as you come into the forward fold. And sway a little side to side here. And then come back through center. And exhale, come back into Malasana. So for me, every time I come into Malasana, my toes have to spin out a little bit. And then as I exhale back into that forward fold with a slightly wider stance than usual, I have to turn all 10 toes straight ahead again. So find your way here, whatever works for you. Inhaling into Malasana, exhaling into Uttanasana variation. And 1 more like that. Malasana, Uttanasana. And then this time, walk both hands over towards the right leg. Try to keep that left leg really strongly grounded though. And exhale, draw the navel to the spine. And here, let the shoulder blades really be spread apart. Inhale, float through center and over to the left. And exhale here. So pull the shoulders out of the ears, widen between the shoulder blades. Keep standing strongly into the right leg, but feel a lot more sensation on the left leg now. Drop your head down. Any amount. And inhale back through center.
and exhale back into Malasana. So here, I will give you a couple of options. Easier option will be to sit right down onto your butt, walk your feet out a little bit, and just as we did lying down earlier, you'll work with really pressing to the inner edge of the left foot, outer edge of the right foot as you move to the right. Inhale through center and exhale, press into the inner edge of the right foot, outer edge of the right foot, left foot, and use the opposite glute. So as you go to the left, engage the right glute. If that is super easy for you, so keep working with that if that's where you want to be. But if you want to try, inhale. I'm really pressing a little more into the right thigh with my right arm here and opening that left knee as far as I can. And then exhale, drop it all the way down, staying lifted in the upper body. Inhale back up and press over here, open, and exhale down. This is much harder, so feel free to stay with that easier version or come with me for a few of these. Once you can do this, it is super good for your hips and you'll have a lot less hip pain. But if you're having any pain at all trying to do it, go to the easier version for now. Okay, good. And then let's all meet back in Malasana and feel that this pose suddenly is actually quite easy. And then back to your forward fold. And now heel and toe your feet in a little bit. Coming to that full forward fold. Spinning the inner thighs back. And breathe. And then stepping back to downward facing dog. Again, finding that opening through the heart, shoulder blades moving in towards each other, but lift the ribs, draw the navel to the spine, curl the tailbone under. You can't really curl the tailbone under here, but you're trying to. That will assist with the lower body moving into flexion as the upper body moves into extension. And then inhale, come forward to plank. Knees down or knees up, whatever's best for you. And inhale, draw the shoulder blades together. And exhale, draw them apart. Inhale, draw the shoulder blades together. Exhale, draw them apart. Inhale, retract. Exhale, protract. Good work. And then again, you may want to be on your knees. And we'll be working with inhaling right leg back behind you and exhaling right knee towards right elbow and then plant the right knee back down. Inhale, left leg back behind you and move the left knee towards the left elbow. So that's with knees down or with knees up. Just moving right knee to right elbow, left knee to left elbow. Either way, there's a moment of retraction in the shoulder blades and a moment of protraction as you move the knee towards the elbow. And after you've done the left side in plank, drop the hips down, lengthen the tailbone. We're coming into full upward dog if possible. Otherwise, go with cobra. Lift the knees up, press into the front of your feet. Tailbone moves down and forward. And lift from pubis to sternum. Move the shoulder blades towards each other, towards the spine. Lift the navel in and up. Lift your gaze. And exhale. Press up and back to downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg up to the sky. And exhale, plant the right foot to the outside of your right hand. If it doesn't work for you to get there from down dog, that's fine. Just come down onto your knees and step the right foot forward. So we're working with two actions here, two opposite actions. You want to see how open you can get through this inner right thigh and how open you can get through the hip flexor, two totally different places. And see if you can really press into the outer edge of the right thigh, the outer edge of the right foot to open the inner right thigh. And engage that left glute to pull the left hip flexor forward. Lift up and out of the pelvis, keeping the chest wide, drawing the shoulder blades in towards the spine. It's a very small action. I don't want you to be like pressing your shoulders back. It's the shoulder blades, not the shoulders, that are making that action. And then if it's available, you can stay just working with this, or if you can bring your right hand into your right thigh and really turn your chest, open your throat, finding a twist with this hip flexor and inner thigh opener. And then maybe bending the left knee, reaching the right hand back, and press the right foot into the right hand. Keep opening the chest, turning the gaze back. And if you like, on an exhale, experiment with moving the left heel towards the left buttock. Keep long and lifted through the front body, and maybe go back and forth a couple of times. Inhaling, pressing the foot back. Exhaling, pulling it in. And then release that down. Heel and toe the right foot back in. Tuck the left toes under. Step the right foot back to downward facing dog. Tuck the ribs in. Draw the navel to the spine. Let the heart melt towards the mat. Inhale, left leg up to the sky. And exhale, left foot to the outside of the left hand. So first, just starting with coming to the outer edge of the left foot. And this, I am not forcing in any way here. I'm just inviting and encouraging. And I'm keeping the right glute engaged, so I'm not just falling into my pelvis. And then turning, opening the left chest, lifting through the throat, lifting the gaze. And if it's available, bending the right knee, left hand reaches for right foot, and press that right foot into the left hand to further open into the back bend, opening that left chest. And on an exhale, explore any amount of the right heel coming towards the right buttock. And inhale, release, and move deeper into the twist as well as the hip opener. And exhale, explore. And then let that go, right foot comes down. And that was all optional. You could have just been hanging out with your lizard posture. That's what that was. And then heel and toe or not, the left foot back in, but in any case, find your way back to down dog or puppy. Remember, puppy's always an option for down dog instead of down dog. Good. And then inhale, right leg up to the sky. And exhale, pull the right knee towards the right elbow. Bring the right foot towards the left wrist, any amount. And slide your left leg back. So if this really is not working for you, if you can't square off the hips as much as possible, then just release that back leg a little bit, let the knee bend, and you can come into a pigeon this way. You'll lean a little bit more over to the right to get that right hip to have some opening. But if you can also put a blanket under your right hip if that helps you to stretch the right leg back. And press the left pinky toe down, spin that left inner thigh up to the sky, engage the left glute, feel an isometric movement between the right knee and the left knee, and lift up out of your pelvis. Lengthen through that whole front body, and exhale, fold over your right shin. Inhale, float up, lift and lengthen, engage the left glute, and exhale, fold. And one more, inhale, and this time exhale, come into the fullest expression. Feel free to put a block at any height that allows you to really rest into the posture. If you don't need a block, that's fine. Reach your arms out overhead in a V shape, or if you can keep the shoulders out of the ears, reach the arms directly alongside the ears. And once you're in the resting position, keep some muscular engagement through the legs so that, again, you're not just passively stretching. And notice that with that engagement, you actually can have more range of motion. Your end range of motion will be deeper. If you engage your inner left thigh, press to the outer edge of your right shin, and have both feet be active here. Let your feet support you in every posture, even when you're not standing. Walk the hands back towards the shoulders and inhale, rise up. And exhale, lean onto the right thigh and come into Janu Sirsasana. So I just swept that left leg around. I'm pressing that sole of the right foot into the inner left thigh. And again, all that muscular engagement through the legs, grounding down, reaching through the left heel, spin the right rib a little around. Inhale, lift your chest, and exhale, come forward any amount. But do make sure that you're really coming forward as much as you're coming down. In fact, if anything, I'd rather you were coming forward more, lifting up and coming forward, than trying to get down and then really rounding a lot through the lower back. But if you can keep the lower back nice and spacious, heart wide, you can have a gentle rounding through the back, but have the feeling of trying to keep the spine pretty straight here. Janu Sirsasana. Use that right leg, press it down, open up through that inner right thigh. Inhale, rise. And exhale, spin around. So now the left knee will bend, right leg will reach back behind you. Again, just keep the right knee bent if you need to for the pigeon on this side. And you can always put something under the left buttock, left hip to support you. Engage the right glute, spin the inner right thigh up to the sky, and lift up out of the pelvis, press to the outer edge of the left shin, activate both your feet, and exhale, lengthen as you lower down. Inhale, float up, engage the right glute, exhale, fold. One more. Get that space in the front body and maintain that space. So don't come down any lower than what will allow you to maintain that space. Feel free to use a block under the forehead. or not. Arms can be wide. Maybe you're just staying like this, that's fine. And more of a back bend, or you're coming into the full forward fold. Full spinal flexion here. It's passive spinal flexion, but it's coming from the engagement of the legs. Both legs are strongly engaged here. Even as that left hip opens. And inhale, float up. Exhale, sit a little into that left thigh and spin that right foot out in front of you. Tuck that left foot into your right thigh. Open out through that inner left thigh and press down here to get that leverage to lift up and over the right foot, coming into the one-legged forward fold, Janu Sirsasana. Let those shoulder blades keep sliding down the back. And again, you can have a slight rounding of the spine, but keep that space in the front body, chest wide, elbows buoyant. Left leg active, extending through the right heel, and breathe. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, fold that right leg so that you can come into Baddha Konasana. And open through the inner thighs. Press the inner thighs down. The knees, of course, will follow, but I want you to think less about the knees here and more about the inner thighs, extending and pressing down. Draw the navel to the spine and let the shoulder blades move a little in towards the spine. And everything's moving towards the spine, into center. Reaching through the crown of your head. Soles of the feet pressed together. I like to hold on to my ankles. That is what allows me to have the most space in my front body here. But if you're feeling more comfortable with the hands underneath the feet, feel free to do that. And then think about bringing the hands out in front of you and coming into any amount of a Baddha Konasana forward fold. Move a little bit over to the right and feel how that enhances the forward fold on the right side, and then shift over to the left, maybe deepening a little bit into the left side, and then come back to center, see if there's any more space on both sides. Make sure that you're keeping the lower back long. Not rounding there. I'd rather see you rounding a little bit more through the upper spine in your forward folds, but not in the lower spine. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, both legs out. And I was really sore after I think it was last week where we were lifting the leg up and over. So we're not going to do that this time because I paid for it last time. But sit up as straight as you can. Again, make sure you're not rounding through the lower back. Feel free to sit on a blanket if you need to get that support. But let's just, for a moment, lift that right leg up and feel that right quadricep engage, and then lift the left leg up any amount and feel the left quadricep engage. So there's always a muscle in yoga that is strong in order for the other muscle to open. So you don't want to be just kind of collapsing and flaccid here. That is actually going to bring less opening to the hamstrings. Engage the quadriceps, extend through the heels, toes to the sky, Haha, already more opening in the hamstrings. And again, maintain the space in the front body. And one way to ensure that is that with each inhale, you lift and lengthen a little, and exhale, test. Inhale, back off. Exhale, deepen in any amount. It might be more of a mental or an emotional deepening than a physical deepening. And really, that's more important. That's really what we're aiming for in yoga, is how deep can you go into yourself, rather than how deep can I go into this posture. But do take all that is available from the stability of the extension through the heels, the activation of the quadriceps. And if it is available, peace fingers around the toes, forehead to a block or the mat. And as you're ready, inhale, rise up. Exhale, bring the legs together for Paschimottanasana, toes to the sky, navel to the spine, shoulder blades sliding down the back. Inhale, not the shoulders, but the arms. Reach through the fingertips. And exhale, come forward any amount. Paschimottanasana. Spin those inner thighs towards the mat. So again, you want those quadriceps to be active, the heels to be extending. And maybe feel some opening through the calves as well as the hamstrings. Breathe into that length of the lower back. Exhale, draw the navel to the spine, shoulders out of the ears. And as you're ready, inhale, rise. And have your bolster ready so that you don't have to get up again if possible. So if you are going to use it, you could just bring it to the side here, have it ready. And lower down onto your back. Bring the soles of the feet together. And let the inner thighs open. Reclining Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana. And now see if you can relax your glutes. Relax your hip flexors, your inner thighs, the soles of your feet. Maybe work a little with the shoulder blades to find the most neutral place, neither retracting nor protracting. Staying with your ocean breath. Emphasizing your exhalation. And at the same time, keep it soft. Softly exhaling through the nose. And then come into cross-legged. Doesn't matter which ankle is in front. So coming a little bit out of that really kind of extreme inner thigh opening. And then switch, other ankle in front. But still Supta Swastikasana.
And then, without hurting yourself, but hopefully also without getting up, find a way to move into Shavasana. If you do have to get up in order to keep from hurting yourself, please do that. And just do it really slowly, and then slowly lower yourself back down into final relaxation, palms to the sky, feet fluffing out. And slowly release your ocean breath. Returning to the natural rhythm and cadence of your breath. And if at any point in Shavasana you wish to release your exhalation through your mouth, feel free to do that. And rather than tuning out or checking out, keep checking in and tuning in. Finding the breath, inside the breath, inside the breath. Relax your jaw, soften the skin on your face. Release any residual tension down into the earth. And begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Fold your elbows and your knees. And rock from side to side. Inhale into a pencil stretch if you like. And do exhale. Pull your knees in towards your chest. Move your knees in a circle, equally in opposite directions. So if you did one in one direction, do one in the other. If you did two or three, do two or three in the other. Make sure you're evened out here. And then roll over onto your right side and pause there for 3 full cycles of breath. And allow that 4th cycle of breath to support you
as you rise up and find your steady, easy seat. Pause to notice how you feel. Remember the intention that you set at the beginning of practice. So often we forget the intention during the practice, but if you think about it now, it was with you throughout your practice today. And you can continue to take it with you. You don't have to be thinking about it all the time. It will just be with you. And once again, checking in with your emotional experience, your mental activity, your energy level, and your physical sensations. By observing these different aspects of your being, of your experience, you locate yourself in witness consciousness, the place from which the true self can watch and see clearly, neither being attached nor aversive to what is going on. Keeping the ego in check. Have a healthy ego, but don't let it run the show. And yes, even the wise are afraid of death, but the witness consciousness knows that ultimately we will be letting go of this life, as well as the fear that we have around letting go of this life. But until then, the more the witness consciousness can be centered and grounded and allowed to express the true self, the happier and the healthier we will all be. Allow the palms to come together at the center of the chest. Inhale, open wide. Inhale, lift your heart a little higher. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May you know freedom and the causes of freedom. Namaste.